Hey, Scott.
Mike, hello.
Yeah, everybody, welcome to the Silicon Insider podcast. Uh, Been an interesting week.
Yes.
Yes, the Dow has been all over the place. It broke 50,000 last week and then it got up to 50,200 or something like that. And then it slid today. This is Thursday, we're recording this. Slid 600 points today. And the S&P 500 fell for the third straight day. And there are different reasons being used for what happened. One of them is just nosebleed area, and it was time to take profits. The second one is there's a lot of people on the street on Wall Street that don't believe the employment numbers. They think that they're just too crazy high. And so that led them to sell. But the big one is a fear that AI's disruption, which has been predicted for 5 years now, is really about to happen. And we'll get into one guy has seemed to have set off this bust, and a blogger who happens to be work for he's a CEO and co-founder of Other Side AI, and he penned a 5,000 word piece, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I do want to get through a few things. Anthropic, despite the bad investment time right now, Anthropic raised $30 billion on a $350 billion valuation. That actually seems, amazingly enough, that seems a little low. But apparently, Anthropic's been a lot more conservative in its build out than, say, OpenAI. OpenAI is talking in trillions. And Anthropic's been doing tens of billions in its build out plan, infrastructure plan. So this is a kind of a bridge to what everybody suspects is going to be an IPO later this year. And it should be a beast of an IPO. We'll see. Okay, next, Land Rush. I was thinking about this as I was reading that just in Silicon Valley alone, just in our backyard, just in my backyard, Menlo Equities was going to build a big office building, a new one, and they did a 180 yesterday and said, no, we're going to build another data center. Meanwhile, IBM bought Confluent for $11 billion to help with its information processing operation. And then I'm discovering that, or I'm hearing that there's some concern. Oh, OpenAI is opening a 450,000 square foot data center in Silicon Valley, actually in Sunnyvale, just down the street here. And now there's stories that the far west, the dry west, the desert west, they're actually beginning to suffer from water shortages from the existing data centers. That is, it's when you and Las Vegas are both tapping into the Colorado River. Things might get a little dry. There might be some shortages. And then the final straw, because I was trying to figure out an analogy to all of this. And I suddenly read that Amazon is going to build another giant data center in Oklahoma. Now, that's the last place you would think that they'd be building a giant, data center. And then I looked at it closely because it turned out it wasn't Oklahoma City, it wasn't Tulsa, it wasn't any of the big cities. It was Stillwater. Now, Stillwater, I happen to know, is the home of Oklahoma State University. I know that because I have my family farm is about 12 miles It's in Bison. It's about 12 miles outside of Stillwater. Now I know that area. That's red dirt farm country. The impact of this on life in that whole Tulsa, not even more Enid, Stillwater, and it's various small towns around there. That's an old-fashioned farming community, and I got my analogy because my farm is a land rush farm. My great grandfather rode a horse into the Cherokee Strip and staked out what is now currently a 320 acre farm that I own. And this is the new land rush. I mean, we've talked about the gold rush for Silicon Valley, but this is a land rush. They're buying land, and they're buying it cheap, and they're buying it underdeveloped areas of the country. And you can picture, the famous picture of the land rush where they're taking off a line of 50,000 people on horseback racing off into this open land, this Indian territory. Well, this is kind of the same thing. There's a famous painting called I believe it's called Manifest Destiny, and it shows a goddess, and she's heading across the landscape, and pioneers and Conestoga wagons, little tiny people compared to her, are crossing the landscape with her. And what is she doing? She's doling out telegraph cable. And I'm struck, this is doling out servers and a lot of electrical cable to cover these underdeveloped areas. What do you think?
Well, this is what we've been seeing with the Amazons, with the OpenAIs, Tesla, the XAIs. It is a land grab because they need the land for these, let's call them power stations, their data centers. They're also, these AI companies are trying to buy land for energy companies, whether nuclear or otherwise, to try to do this. And it's interesting because on the one hand, it is a land grab, it is a power grab. On the other hand, unlike build outs, these aren't really creating jobs. And some towns are saying, don't put them here. They'll suck our power, they'll take away our water, but they won't create jobs because they don't need many humans inside. So it's not really a win-win in a way that, say, getting a new, Walmart or company headquarters is. It's kind of a lose-lose. You lose your resources, you lose, potentially your environment. And by the way, you're not gaining new jobs. You're not helping your economy. So it's something that a lot of towns are wary of. And that's why you're seeing them go to these undeveloped areas.
Yeah, well, that was my second thought. I thought, wow, all these new jobs are going to come in, in that part of Oklahoma. Enid's going to be a boom town again after 100 years, and Stillwater's going to do great. And then I thought, well, how many people is it going to bring? What, maybe a building manager and a guy that monitors a dial on the electrical output? You're right. It's just going to take up resources without giving much back.
Exactly. And that's why counties and states and cities are very wary of these, because they want to put them often in undeveloped land. And as we know, both in California and in the Bay Area, we value our undeveloped land, and we also value our jobs. And so if you're taking away undeveloped land without adding jobs or housing or things that we need, really, what's the point? What's the value add to a community?
Well, I'm not even sure they'd even pay local taxes. I guess they would.
But not as much as if you had actual workers there. Some of these facilities, they're called lights out facilities. You don't even need to turn lights on because it's all robotic. It's all automated. So it really doesn't bring much to a community, but it takes away often from a community.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing I wanted to get to most was the thing that probably affected the market, this fear of disruption, was a 5,000 word viral blog on X by a guy named Matt Shumer. I don't know. Have you heard about this week?
Yeah.
It caused a big. I mean, it's drawn 55 million visitors. Wow! And he basically penned this Cassandra type essay, and it essentially says, well, what set him off was the introduction of GPT-5.3 Codex from OpenAI and Opus 4.6 from Anthropic on the same day, February 5th. And looking at those two AI platforms, he saw the future, and it wasn't pretty. He essentially said, these aren't just, answer your questions kind of thing. These are tools, and they're such powerful tools for coders and eventually everybody else in the economy that they will take away jobs forever. And they'll slowly creep into other areas, from medicine to retail to design, architecture, everything, because they're so good and they're so powerful. And moreover, I wrote a book about this with Bill Davidow just a few years ago, that AI is starting now. Our greatest fear, AI is being used to create more powerful AI. And he suggested that, knowledge workers, we thought it would be 5 years, 10 years. That was a prediction. He thinks it's a lot less than that. He thinks it's like day after tomorrow. Now, I read a return essay, a reply in Fortune, that argues that he's looking from the point of view of a coder. And coding is very different from real life, in the sense that with code, it either works or it doesn't work. It's a 1 or 0. And so that it's good enough if it works. In real life, if you're selling real estate or doing banking or just about anything, in real life, nothing's black and white like that. You kind of know. I've been following this startup for 4 years now, and they've had a surprise at every corner, and AI couldn't help them. And they're using Claude now, and they talk about how powerful it is, but it still is not giving them perfect answers, because there's no perfect answers in an imperfect world. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of views about AI out there. Yes, it's taking some jobs, but it's also creating jobs. Yes, it's creating massive stock market value, but it's also making some heart-stopping drops in certain kinds of stocks, even if they fall just a little bit out of favor or miss one slight number on an earning report. It's really, really bubbly out there. That's why they call this the AI bubble. I think we just don't know if AI is going to be the be-all, end-all, or if it's going to be something that, a lot of companies use to help their back end. I mean, remember, we had the dot-com boom, and dot-com was supposed to solve everything. Then the bust hit, and it was supposed to go away and never be seen again. Well, obviously, it didn't solve all the problems, but it is literally in our lives every single day.
It didn't go away.
Right. So AI could tomorrow, hopefully not, blow up. Stock market falls in half. Hundreds of trillions of dollars are lost, but still stick with us forever. So we just don't know where it ends up, because we, and I include our business in this, tend to get ahead of ourselves in sort of speculating and predicting about this. But we all as individuals need to step back and say, is this really important in our lives? Do we use AI at work, at home, to answer questions? But these, either Cassandra or this is going to be the be-all, end-all conversations, are really fruitless unless and until we figure out where AI will be on a day-to-day basis in our society.
Yeah, it's a little known, a little remembered fact that when the dot-com bubble burst, if you look at the that year, the total industry in internet operations and dot coms and everything else actually grew. It didn't miss a step. Thousands of companies died, but they were little, and the big ones that survived, like Amazon and Google, they kept growing at such a pace that the industry actually didn't lose a step. So, but those are the things we really needed. Those were the things that we incorporated into our lives because they added value. Pets.com didn't. So, I mean, I think I have no doubt a shakeout's coming, but AI is moving so fast, and it's finding uses with knowledge workers, but I don't think it's finding that much use or penetration in industries that are not coding, or building AI chips. That it's going to take a lot longer, and I don't think it's got a beachhead now, but I don't think it's going to conquer.
Right, and I think that's why you're seeing so much volatility in the stock market, because everybody is jumping on the bandwagon, and therefore everybody's buying into it. But then, whether you're a software company or a hardware company that can't prove that AI is going to be your, cash cow, you're being punished for it, and I get it. We just don't know where the money is going to come from because so few of these companies, which harks back to your example in the dot-com bust, are profitable yet or even will ever be profitable. So there'll be a shakeout. There always is. But also, what usually almost always happens with new technology that gets hot is it sticks around in some form. We just don't know exactly what form that will be.
Yeah. And, reading the reply to this essay, well, first of all, I think the market reacted because everything's so slippery right now. And, stockbrokers don't know that much about AI even yet and the industry. So when a guy with a title of CEO of an AI company comes out with this essay, which a lot of it is he's making claims that really can't be backed up. But he's using all the right words, like when he looked at those two new AI products, he said something clicked, not like a light switch, more like the moment you realize the water has been rising around you and is now at your chest. Well, that's a nice piece of writing, but does it really map over into the real world? And he makes other generalization claims that I'm not sure he can back up. But with the stock markets, it's like, oh no, a AI CEO says it's all going to blow up and we're all going to die. Everybody gets their hair on fire. The stock market drops 600 points.
I mean, that wasn't the only reason. You had some rough Apple news. You had some earnings that were subpar from the likes of Cisco. These things happen. And if you take it day to day, forget about it. You're going to go nuts. You really need to look long term at these things. And I think AI has a long-term future, but we don't know what it is. And trying to say it's this or it's that just feels premature. And that's why it's a relief as someone who doesn't buy and sell stocks, but also tries to keep up with this stuff, that I can take a step back and say, we just don't know yet. Here's what might happen. And that, I think, is where the voice of reason comes from in AI.
Well, as I mentioned a few moments ago, I've been working on a book following a startup for 4 years now. Okay, well, I just got an email from the founder. They just introduced their first product yesterday or day before. 4 years. And then using Claude over the weekend, he literally designed a company, a new app in the volleyball space. Because his son is a national class volleyball player in high school, and he wanted to put together something that would do stats and training and all that. He literally told Claude to design this thing, and it spit it out 2 days later. And that's a new company. And I've heard this before, that if you can assemble enough information and ask the right questions of a good AI system, it will give you new company ideas, new startup ideas that no one has tried. And that gives me a lot of optimism, because in a sense, yeah, it may take away a lot of other jobs, but it may create whole new industries that will generate thousands of jobs. And yeah, those jobs may not last forever. They may get replaced too. But if you keep moving on, the economy does well. It's healthy and it thrives, and you have a very interesting career.
Sure, potentially so. I mean, AI does much faster what search engines used to do. Search engines do faster what your memory used to do. And so, sure, ideas come faster and in larger bunches than ever before. That's impressive. But what do you do with them? If you have a great idea for, I don't know, a company in the volleyball space, what do you do with that? How do you create it? How do you create jobs? There's still human ingenuity and capital that's needed here, I think.
Yeah, and surveys have found that in code writing, yeah, AI is really valuable. But in other fields, the quality of the production of these programs is mediocre at best. And that's leaving aside the fact that, AI is always trying to impress you and please you by giving you the answers they think you want. And
Right.
it oftentimes hallucinates. And so that's not a speed bump. That's a hole. That's a manhole cover open, and you won't be able to spot it until it's uncovered by everybody else. So, that's a warning that's going to be around for a while.
That's true too.
Okay. Well, it's not going to replace you and me. Yeah,
Not right away. No.
not yet. Okay, well, that's it for this week. Folks, you can catch Scott, as always, on X and Facebook. And, of course, almost every weeknight on NBC Bay Area. And I'm Mike Malone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.